Thanks for your time. Let's start with the chiefs and politics. And political scientist Professor Ransford Gyampo has described as worrying recent resurgence of chiefs endorsing politicians. Now, two recent comments by top traditional rulers have ignited the age-long reminder that chiefs should not be engaged in active politics. While the Ochehene Osajifo Amwetia Oforipeni over the weekend said parents whose children have benefited from the free SHS policy must vote wisely, Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Tutu II last week said Asanteman will remember the president's good works. Do these comments amount to participation in active politics? We'll hear the views of a political scientist shortly, but first, listen to this report.
Twaso ama efiena na efiena okotena mu no a wo be so yie yes ama wo tena mu bio na wo hanne na wa ba se ochini na Ghana ni na wo je be bia ya to oba na wo bi eni ho na wo antie di se ne oba ko suku antie di se from a antie di se enda so wo ho na wo to oba e mo anto no ba yie
Asante nso kai wadwuma pa no enim sa asante be kai no wadwuma so me de pa ya na da biara mebo ama no me se ye nanan mo de ye se yenye mo yi bi yenka ho yenhye jesi ne bi yenye hwe nti ayireyira so ani chibuo de bebem so nti yireyira se de usike nanan mo nyina ye to aba nti agya ye nyina ye koduro ho a ye hwe adwuma pa so ne ye de ato so the one at the Empire and Mabamano. And Miamia baby, I wire Juma Codroniano. 1 man a month for non church many penhun a year. And in I come on the Bemia Huno, a Jumapa, wire Dawanimo.
One of the promises you made that we are so happy about is your promise to legalize Okada. You said you will make sure it is regularized. If anyone tells you that they are against the legalization of Okada, then we don't agree with them. The reason why we don't agree with them is because we have traveled a lot.
So let's go on to the phone lines and speak to Professor Ransford Gyampo. He's a political scientist, and he says this development is worrying. Prof, what in your view amounts to active participation in partisan politics? First of all,
you know, Aristotle said man is by nature a political animal, and so if you strip man off politics, he becomes like a beast. It is impossible for human beings not to do politics, and that underscores the ubiquity of politics. Politics is found everywhere. So we are naturally political animals, but when we say active partisan politics, essentially you are referring to certain behavior of man that identifies him openly with one political party, and then the person is seen to be wearing party paraphernalia, party t-shirts, party shoes, party, all the kinds of things associated with political parties. The person is also seen at political party rallies, and then also the person is seen openly campaigning or making statements that inure to the benefit of one political party as against the other. When you do these things, we say you are engaged in active partisan politics. But every human being does politics to the extent that we vote. I mean, you would have to always exercise your franchise when there is an election. And so to the extent that you would always vote, you do politics. But for certain class or category of citizenry, if you want democracy to thrive, you say you have the right to vote, you have the you have the right to be enfranchised and to vote in an election, but you are not supposed to do active partisan politics. And that's what our 1992 Constitution says. If you read Max Weber, the German sociologist who gave his formulation on the ideal type of bureaucracy, he also said that the bureaucrats should also not do active partisan politics. That means that in every electoral contestation, they have the right to go and vote. But they must be to be aligned with any political party openly. In the same way, if we look at our 1992 Constitution and what it says about chiefs, it tells them that yes, chiefs, if they want to vote in an election, they can do so. But given a certain negative historical antecedent that tends to undermine the sanctity of the institution of chieftaincy, if we are thinking about restoring back the glory of chiefs to them, then they must stay out of partisan politics. And that means that they can vote, but they shouldn't be seen at party rallies. They should not make open statements that identifies them with one political party. They should not be seen wearing any party paraphernalia, and that's what our law says.
But I'm curious to know, how do their comments undermine the chieftaincy institution? You referenced that earlier.
If you make a comment that openly shows that you support one political party, it simply means that you indirectly you are opposed to the other party. It's an electoral contestation, and so you must be choosy in the comments that you make. There is a way to naturally. It will be a breach of customary protocols for presidential aspirants and power seekers to go to communities where they are chiefs and to say that they will not pay courtesy call on them. Yeah. So naturally, politicians who are looking for votes will pay courtesy call on these people. But when they pay such courtesy calls, you should be circumspect in the statements that you make so that you don't portray yourself as being in bed with one particular party or offering a kind of open support to that political party. If you do that, you engage in active partisan politics.
Be as it may, I mean, we always see them doing it. It's very clear in the Constitution. It's very specific. They must not participate in active partisan politics, and yet we see them doing it.
It is not clear. It is not all of them who are doing it. There are some people who have respected the constitutional.
We're talking about those who are actually engaged in it. We're talking about those who are engaged in it.
Well, I'm saying that not all of them are actively engaged in partisan politics. Some have respected the constitutional injunction and they have stayed out of partisan politics. As I speak to you now, I'm in my hometown. I showed a piece that I wrote to the chief, and I told them that this is what is going on. You have to stay away. And some of them are not happy, and some of them are against what is going on. So, my point being that they are not engaged in active partisan politics. They have.
All right. I was making the point. I was making the point that the Constitution is very clear on this. Chiefs are barred from participating in active partisan politics, and yet we see some of them engaging in it. A case in point is the Ochehene, who actually endorsed the president and saying, you need to give him 4 more years. So, and he's actually asking his subjects to actually go out and endorse the president as well, and by extension vote for him. So how do we deal with this issue once and for all? Do we consider scrapping the law that bans them from engaging in partisan politics?
Well, the greatest of respect to all the chiefs who are doing this. See, gone are the days when people who were not too educated were appointed chiefs. But now, chiefs are very distinguished and refined people in terms of quality. You see, they are highly educated and all that. So what we have to do is to remind them of the constitutional injunction. I mean, the point is this. When the institutions of states that are supposed to serve as countervailing agencies to ensuring that there is peace fail to do their role, we can always fall on the chiefs. And these chiefs now are highly lettered and very much educated. And so it's important. Once upon a time, a reverend minister was heard shouting, so there are people who know the historical antecedents that led to the constitutional injunction banning chiefs from doing active partisan politics. We expect all of them to speak up against some of these things because it's not the best, and it is disappointing to hear chiefs that are very eminent, chiefs who know what the law says, violating the law, openly. And so it's not only about the Partisan that you mentioned. I'm aware other chiefs are doing things, and I would appeal to them that should the political leaders call on them, they should be circumspect in the tone, in the language that they use, so that they don't betray themselves as being partisan. Because they are subject, the people that they preside and they lord over, they are NDC people and they are NPP people, they are CPP people, they are PNC people, they are all they are all manner of political party supporters. And so if you opt for one side of the divide, then it means you quote and unquote lose a certain kind of legitimacy in the sight of the remaining citizens who do not subscribe to the political party that you are openly campaigning for. And I think it is absolutely unacceptable. People in Ghana must begin to speak against some of these things. You see, when there is a threat of democratic relapse, when there is a threat of implosion, and institutions, some of these countervailing agencies and institutions of restraint and institutions that are supposed to ensure peace building have also been tagged. And so for some time now, some of these institutions are not enjoying the respect and the support from the ordinary citizens because they feel that, as for these people, you can't now trust them. They're only institutions that we can trust to have the clout to be able to resolve conflicts today emerge in the institution of chieftaincy. And you see, because these are, that can't say they are of bad time, okay, so they would have the heart, to bring all across the divide, together. If you look at how some chiefs have conducted themselves, if you go to them, you are MPP flag bearer, they will receive you. If you go to them, you are MPP flag bearer of MPP power seeker, they will receive you. And some have been very cautious in the utterances that they make. But unfortunately, some too have also, I would say, played to the gallery and said so many things that betrays them as being doing partisan politics. It's unacceptable. It must be condemned. And we as a nation, as a people, must not condone such utterances.
Many thanks for your time. We mustn't condone such utterances. It remains to be seen if other people will speak up against this. Thank you so much for your time. That's Professor Ransford Gyampo. He's a political scientist giving his perspective on the matter there.